and again. My producer tried to convince me that it was fine, and while it probably was fine, that was among the last adjectives in the world I'd want applied to this particular passage of music. I wanted it to be as vivid, as hallucinogenic even, as it was in my imagination, and my inability to make it happen was threatening to overwhelm me. Its failure to make me dizzy was making me dizzy. When I moved on to the next variation, having exhausted myself into submission, some 5, 20, 100 minutes later, I wasn't exactly satisfied, and I certainly wasn't convinced that this music had now received its definitive performance. I had, however, managed to remember an essential truth about Beethoven. One can, should, must spend a lifetime searching his music without the expectation of reaching an absolute understanding. It's a truth that is simultaneously beautiful and deeply unsatisfying. It certainly didn't thrill me that afternoon, but it was just about enough for me to ungrit my teeth and move on. I was reminded of this incident about a year ago, when I made the decision to embark on a recording of the complete Beethoven sonatas. I'm convinced that there is no greater body of music, none that covers more spiritual ground. And so the decision to begin this immersion in these pieces was immediately exhilarating. It was also, for reasons that are presumably clear at this point, totally terrifying. If recording just one passage from one of these sonatas could unmoor me so thoroughly, what effect would recording all 32 have? Why would I put myself through this? Why indeed? A sense of equilibrium is a precious asset for any artist or person, hard to achieve and harder to maintain. For a performing musician asked to exert and contort himself in ways both subtle and improbable in the service of someone else's ideas, it often feels out of reach entirely. So why am I throwing myself into Beethoven, whose music, more than any other, demands both laser-like focus and total abandon? To rephrase the original question, why drive myself crazy in this particular way? It is, of course, a delicious irony that only a thing that could drive one crazy could justify this kind of head-first immersion. However much an actor might enjoy playing barefoot in the park, it will not bore a hole in his brain in the way that, say, King Lear might, and therefore his devotion to it will have its limits. And this is not just some cliché about the artistic persona. Anyone who's been in love knows that infatuation doesn't come without complexity, and usually an element of danger. We fall in love with a person or an idea or a work of art, not in spite of the risk of losing ourselves, but because it is a way to lose ourselves. I couldn't possibly identify a favorite work of Beethoven, but nothing he wrote strikes me as more emblematic of his personality than the cavatina from the Quartet Opus 130. In it, after several minutes of uninterrupted, always yearning melody, the music begins to break down. And what was previously expressed unhindered, in the most open-hearted manner, now comes out in fits and starts, effortful and uncertain. This extraordinary passage is marked beklemmt, roughly translated as oppressed, and many interpret this peculiar and entirely unprecedented direction as connoting sorrow, anguish. But the oppression I hear in this music isn't anguish, but shortness of breath, the kind that comes from a heightened state of emotion, in this case, tenderness gone out of control. And that's why, in spite of my very real worries regarding what this music may do to me and what I may not be able to do for it, I'm recording all of Beethoven's piano sonatas. Because he takes my breath away. Because he does so frequently, and in a way no other musical or life experience can replicate. Because he can do so through so many different heightened emotional states: despair in the slow movement of the Hammerklavier Sonata, warm-bloodedness in the second movement of the Sonata Opus 90, rage in the Appassionata Sonata, sheer transcendence in the G major piano concerto, and most everything else he wrote. Because I can see no better way of losing myself than in these wonders.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.